Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Lisa Maas Medicare and another week of Medicare education and an opportunity to ask your questions. Now, I don't work for the federal government and I don't work for the Department of Medicare. I'm a licensed agent, I'm a broker, and what I do is I am included in all the different companies. I'm licensed in my area to be able to look behind the scenes and see what's the best for you. So if you have any questions or comments, please write them in the chat today. And those of you that are actually watching a recording on either Facebook Live or on YouTube, both under Lisa Maas Medicare. Thank you. Thank you all for watching and saying your comments. They will come to my email as well. So I put this together so you can ask your questions on topic every week, almost every week that we come live to you on Fridays. So this week, we're going to be talking about drug formularies. I had two clients this week that this is a very important topic. It's a very important topic for everybody, but especially these two clients. And they were a little bit different. Neither one of them had a drug plan. Now, when you sign up for A and B, again, that was 80%. Remember, we talked about that a few weeks ago. Then you have two paths to do that gap insurance and your drug plans. You can go Medicare Advantage, which bundles it all together, or you can buy a supplementary gap insurance to pay that 20% and a standalone drug plan. Well, the first lady, her husband was a veteran. He received his benefits from the VA office and he received all his medications from VA. He also had Medicare Part A and B. Well, when she came to be 65, they signed her up for Medicare A and B and the 20% gap insurance. However, they never signed her up for a standalone drug plan. If you don't have a standalone drug plan, you do receive a penalty, which is 1% of the national average per month, and it follows you the rest of your life. Well, she signed up originally in 2013. We called and got her penalties, and they were $47 a month. Now, the average drug plan cost for a standalone drug policy in the United States is $55 a month. So she would be paying over $100 a month for a drug plan, and she didn't have any drugs at all. So for her, she made the decision to say, look, I'm going to continue down this road and just pay the drugs out of pocket. The challenge is if she ever gets really sick and has high dollar drugs or only brand name drugs and there's no generic, she could be paying really hefty for her drugs. Now, the other woman, she never got a drug policy either, and she has MS. And through the last 20 years had no problems. She took no medication for her MS. However, she got some lesions. She was put into the hospital, and they wanted to put her on some MS drugs. Well, you know how much they cost? $10,000 per month for her drug. And she didn't have a drug policy. She couldn't afford $10,000 a month. She got really lucky. Her doctor was very savvy. There's two types of drugs. There's drugs that you can take yourself that you get from the pharmacy every month. And there's drugs that only a doctor can administer, either by IV or things like certain diabetic drugs, certain kidney drugs, dialysis, shots in your eyes, things like that, that only a doctor can do for you. Those drugs go under your Part B. Remember, you have the A and B, and they're covered through Medicare. So luckily for her, her drugs are covered through Medicare. There's other things you can do if you do not have a drug plan. You can ask your doctor if he can find a generic one that's really inexpensive, or your doctor can possibly go to the drug manufacturer and see if he can get a discount that way. Our area that we live in, I'm in Idaho, our hospital also has a program that you can apply for that they can help you with your drug cost. But for the most part, you want to get a drug plan. Now, if you've got a standalone policy, a supplemental policy, you'll have a standalone drug plan. Again, the average, they run between $50 and $90, $100. The average is $55. There's plans, though, as inexpensive as 50 cents a month. It depends on what drugs you're on. On a Medicare Advantage plan, 99.9% of the time, your drugs are going to be included in your plan. So it's really important when you sit down with your agent that she or he puts all the drugs into your formulary to make sure you're on the right plan, because all insurance companies, all of your plans have a formulary. Now, these are created by individual insurance companies and approved by Medicare every year. So it's really important to check in with your agent. I'm putting my information on the screen. Be happy to call me. I'm happy to help you. My local number here is 208-544-5011. I also have a pretty good website. It's insuranceover65.com. You can reach me by email through my website. And I also have all kinds of articles, everything that I do for YouTube and for Facebook is included in the articles. So it's really nice to read the articles. If you don't want to listen to it, you can always see that on my website. Again, it's insuranceover65.com. Okay, so these formularies are created by insurance companies and approved by Medicare. They change every year. Every plan, whether you're on a Medicare Advantage plan or a standalone plan, they each have their own formulary. Some of them will cover some of the drugs. Some of them will cover other drugs. So you want to make sure that your drugs are covered under your plan in your formulary. All the drugs are categorized into tiers from generic to brand name drugs. The generic drugs start at tier 1 and tier 2, the lower tiers, and the cost is the least expensive for you. The higher tiers of 4 and 5 are brand name drugs or very expensive drugs, and of course your cost is more expensive. And on the formulary tiers, they're all broke down on your plan of what the costs are. Many of these plans, your tiers 1 and 2 won't cost you anything or very little copay. Your tiers 4 and 5 can be quite expensive. They also have a tier 6 now, which is kind of a mix match of drugs. They tend to be really fairly inexpensive drugs on tier 6. All of these formularies have rules. They have prior authorization. We saw that this year a lot in 2024 in the beginning of the formularies where, give you an example, the drug Ozempic. Ozempic is a drug for diabetes. However, the doctors have been putting people on this drug to lose weight. So the Medicare formularies are saying, look, we need prior authorization. If you're diabetic, sure, we'll cover the drug. If you're only using it for weight loss, we're not going to cover the drug. So you had to go to your doctor and get a prior authorization if you were diabetic in order for them to cover the drug. That's just one example of prior authorization. You also can have quality limits. So they'll limit the number of pills that you can get, say a 30-day supply or a 60-day supply. There may be limits on the number of drugs. This happens especially with pain medication drugs. They don't want to give you too many because they can be volatile of getting on the drug and not being able to get off the drug. So they'll give you quality limits on those. And the third is step therapy. The companies can say, hey, look, we want you to attempt this drug first, which is a lower dollar cost. If it doesn't work, then we'll step you up to another drug. And that's all coordinated with your physician as well. And if you've got a good agent, they'll help you coordinate your prior authorizations, your limits, and your step therapy as well. Now, these formularies can change throughout the year. By law, the companies must notify you. Your plan must notify the members in advance if the formularies change. Now, if you get onto a formulary and say a new drug comes up that your doctor wants you to attempt during the year and it's very expensive, you can request an exemption. This is done by your physician to exempt you from the high cost of the drug. Your agent can help you with that. Your physician directly can help you with that as well. Again, my number is 208-544-5011. If you're one of my clients, call me and I'm happy to help you with anything on your policy, but especially your formularies and your exemptions. They can help with manufacturer hardships, which they go right to the manufacturer and say, hey, look, this person has a hardship. Can you give them a discount on the drug? They also have all kinds of generic drugs that come up through the year as well. That maybe you're on a brand name drug and they come out through the year with a generic. They can help you with that as well. As far as costs go on the formularies, you're going to find your standalone drug policies that go with your supplementals to be more expensive because the formularies tend to be smaller than your MAPD or your Medicare Advantage plans. Your Medicare Advantage plans tend to have larger formularies, so the drugs on those formularies tend to be a little less expensive. Now, you can change your formularies with standalone and supplemental only at the end of the year during open enrollment. That's October 15th through December 7th. On your Medicare Advantage plans, again, those are October 15th through December 7th. You change during that time and the plans all become effective January 1st through December 31st. If you're on a Medicare Advantage plan and you don't like it, you can change one more time, which includes your formulary, January 1st through March 31st. Now, there's also an exception if you're on a low-income subsidy, if you're on Medicaid of any point, and either you're on it now or you get qualified for it during the year, then you can also change your formulary and your plan as well. Just check in with your agent on that. So that's all I have today for you on drug formularies. I'm not seeing in the comments any comments that came in. You can also email me during the week if you have questions, whether it's on your drug formularies or anything regarding your Medicare and Medicaid through my website, insuranceover65.com, and I'll answer your questions on the following week. We always meet here almost every Friday, 12 noon Mountain Time, which is 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern. Please join me. If not, they're always recorded and they're going to be put up as the recording on Lisa Maas Medicare on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you all for joining. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week.